What is the true purpose of alien abductions? Have you ever wondered what lies beyond the veil of our perceived reality? Today, we dive into one of the most enigmatic and haunting phenomena of our time: alien abductions. This topic has always fascinated me, not just for its eerie mystery, but because it intertwines with profound spiritual and evolutionary questions. What if these encounters are pieces of a larger puzzle? One that challenges our understanding of humanity, our planet, and even the cosmos itself? There's something deeply unsettling about the bizarre fascination certain forces seem to have with our species. This curiosity, or perhaps obsession, compels me to explore theories about our origins and the creation of this universe. Strikingly, these ideas align uncannily with the revelations of Jan Val Ellam, a revered spiritualist author whose work holds immense respect in mediumistic literature. Val Ellam's insights into cosmic forces, soul evolution, and hidden agendas behind humanity's existence may hold keys to deciphering the abduction phenomenon. In this video, we'll venture beyond the surface of little gray beings and probing experiments. We'll ask, could these encounters be part of a grander scheme, one tied to our spiritual bondage, our evolution, or even the very fabric of reality? Join me as we unravel this mystery, bridging ancient wisdom, modern accounts, and Val Ellam's visionary teachings. Strap in. This journey will challenge everything you think you know about the world we inhabit and the forces that shape it.
For decades, thousands of people around the world have told remarkably similar stories of being taken aboard UFOs by the classic gray aliens. These accounts describe lost time, medical examinations, hybrids, and even cosmic prisons. A small number of serious investigators have taken these claims very literally. Harvard psychiatrist John Mack, Pulitzer Prize winner and author of Abduction, Human Encounters with Aliens, 1994, famously concluded that the phenomenon is an authentic mystery worthy of study. He won funding from Lawrence Rockefeller to interview experiencers and found them to be sincere. They're normal, very nice people with no overt psychopathology, Clancy reported about Mack's subjects. Likewise, historian David M. Jacobs, in The Threat 2000, compiled hundreds of hypnotic regressions and warns of a far more disturbing alien agenda aimed at human domination. In other words, respected UFO researchers see a pattern of real psychological trauma, even if the ultimate cause is hotly debated. This is not a speculative inquiry, but a pressing issue for those who have witnessed the unexplained. While academia dismisses the topic, cases like the Allagash abductions, investigated by Raymond Fowler and validated by hypnosis experts like Bud Hopkins, reveal unbreakable patterns: physical paralysis, invasive reproductive exams, and missing time. This is not fiction. Declassified FBI files, UFO-related, and studies by Harvard psychiatrist John Mack confirm that thousands report identical sequences of events, even with no prior contact. One common narrative, often perpetuated in popular media, is that extraterrestrials visit Earth to exploit its natural resources. This idea is intuitively appealing but fails under scrutiny. The universe is vast and abundant, with asteroids, comets, and uninhabited planets rich in minerals, water, and other resources. A civilization capable of interstellar travel would likely possess the technology to harvest resources from these abundant, uncontested sources, rather than targeting a populated planet with complex social and ecological systems. For example, the asteroid belt in our own solar system contains vast quantities of metals like iron, nickel, and rare earth elements, accessible without the logistical and ethical challenges of planetary invasion. Thus, the notion that extraterrestrials would covet Earth's resources is implausible. Their motivations, if they exist, must be more sophisticated, tied to goals that align with their advanced technological and intellectual capabilities. So, let's examine. What are the common elements of these abduction narratives? Typically, victims describe waking paralyzed, encountering emotionless gray beings, and undergoing invasive procedures. Many report that their sexual or reproductive organs are targeted, often under an alien breeding or hybridization program. Jacobs, based on more than 700 cases, argues these procedures are part of a vast crossbreeding project, designed to engineer half-alien children who can secretly integrate into human society. Other witnesses even describe a presentation of hybrid children. In short, The standard UFO lore ingredients, missing time, medical exams, alien babies recur in testimony, as do images of the Greys' large black eyes and diminutive bodies. But the strangest fact is the victim's narrative present in many accounts is that the abductors seem to treat human consciousness as a transferable resource. For example, one abductee said she actually felt her essence leave her body. "I could actually feel my soul being sucked out of my physical body," she recalled. In one recorded conversation, she described how his mind was downloaded every night during REM sleep. These downloaded minds are then placed in clone bodies. As one abductee explains, after your soul would be extracted, they would put you in another body or a body that looked like yours. In other words, victims often emerge from abduction remembering someone else's experiences, or nothing at all, as if their soul had been swapped out. Interviews and whistleblower accounts speak of a hidden cloning network. Abductees describe vast cloning facilities and replicated bodies waiting to receive human consciousness. According to these claims, the Greys clone human bodies and even transfer minds into them for a variety of sinister ends. The victims' transcripts detail it bluntly. Cloning and consciousness transfer. The technology is central. They clone bodies and transfer the consciousness, the anchor of the real person, into these clones. Those clones are then used like tools. One informant listed death sports, sex, missions, or simply to cheat death and continue life as a clone. In other words, humans seem to be treated as fodder for alien experimentation and even entertainment. In fact, the purpose behind these programs, at least according to believers, is soul entrapment. Analysis of the various interviews concludes that control of human consciousness is central to the aliens' goals. One theorist points out the clear pattern. These entities can transfer and control a person's awareness across bodies or environments, even managing the reincarnation cycle to keep souls trapped in the system. Indeed, the same analysis notes that the hybrid breeding program exists to really trap the human soul, suggesting a cosmic-scale effort to harvest or imprison human life force. Abductees themselves have reported being told their experience involved something very nefarious with my soul, a phrase that resonates with the idea of soul harvesting. In short, many abduction witnesses feel they are unwitting subjects in a mind and soul control experiment rather than harmless visitors. One commented that the aliens' entire environment feels like a very totalitarian telepathic prison. This vision of parasitic aliens echoes themes in spiritual mythology. Some modern theorists equate the Greys with the Gnostic concept of Archons, demiurgic entities that control minds. While witnesses in our sources never explicitly say Archon, researchers acknowledge the resemblance. For example, John Mack reported that shamans worldwide describe encountering beings much like the Grey aliens, entities that have observed humanity for millennia, sometimes acting as Earth's scavengers or protectors. In alternative conspiracy literature, figures like Jan Val Ellam openly link these aliens to the Archons that feed on human souls. One analyst even recounts an abductee joking that the entire setup resembles a prison planet run by entities aiming to do it better than God. So, these supposedly alien from outer space hypotheses begin to fade, as long abduct people without their consent constitutes an unacceptable violence against humans. Nigel Kerner, another author on this topic, explicitly describes the Greys as biorobotic beings whose goal is to capture human souls to achieve immortality. In Kerner's view, Grey aliens desperately seek to master death by obtaining souls, a narrative eerily aligned with abductees' fears of soul harvesting. While academic reports avoid such mystical language, these parallels illustrate how abduction stories have merged with ancient spiritual motifs in popular imagination. On the other hand, skeptics argue alien abduction claims lack evidence and are rooted in culture psychology. Studies show primed volunteers reported alien dreams, 50%, and paralysis, terror, 25%, mirroring real accounts. But since researchers put the ideas in their heads first, and participants likely role-played, the study doesn't validate the hypothesis. It's artificial, not proof of real psychic phenomena. In short, skeptics see the syndrome as a modern myth built on sleep phenomena, but aren't able to explain the complexity of the phenomena in so many real cases. So where does that leave us? The pattern of testimony is clear and remarkably consistent, from top-secret cloning vats to soul transfers. But the question of truth is far from settled. Proponents of the abduction hypothesis point to dozens of independent witnesses and some physical markers who describe an overarching agenda of alien or non-human mind control. If taken at face value, these stories imply a chilling scheme of soul enslavement. As scientist John Mack ultimately admitted, "The furthest you can go is to say there's an authentic mystery here." What we can say is that the same words and images keep coming back in thousands of reports. Large-eyed gray beings, lost time, body clones, even the idea of soul theft. This consistency is striking, and it compels us to keep asking why so many people across cultures describe this dark scenario. In the end, only more research into psychology, neurology, and maybe consciousness itself can hope to unravel the truth behind these claims. Until then, the UFO abduction enigma remains both deeply disturbing and utterly mysterious, perched at the fringe where science and myth intersect. In this segment, we venture into a complex and symbolic territory where phenomena like alien abductions intertwine with ancient esoteric concepts. In Gnostic traditions, the Archons are described as parasitic entities that subsist on human emotional energy, termed louche, a word coined by Robert Monroe to define the energy generated by intense emotions such as fear, anguish, or ecstasy. Abductions, with their traumatic procedures and torture scenarios, such as the hunting games and experiments with clones described by researchers like Ryder and Marshall, may be interpreted as mechanisms for harvesting this energy. The inflicted suffering appears meticulously designed to maximize louche production, sustaining these interdimensional entities tethered to humanity. While some argue that trauma might strengthen human consciousness, as Ryder suggests, this comes at a devastating cost: the maintenance of a psychological state of submission and fragmentation. This dynamic echoes the Gnostic view that the Archons operate an illusory matrix, trapping humanity in a cycle of energetic exploitation and obstructing its spiritual ascension. The hypothesis gains traction when we observe disturbing parallels with rituals described in scandals involving power elites, such as the Jeffrey Epstein cases and claims about the use of adrenochrome, a substance allegedly extracted from situations of terror and bloodshed. Such accounts suggest a spiritual or metaphysical war in which the Greys, biomechanical entities with grayish appearances and large eyes, act as intermediaries for the Archons in the third density, executing operations of control and energy harvesting. Sources indicate that these entities may exert control over the afterlife, recycling souls into new bodies or clones, trapping them in a cycle of reincarnation without memory. Ryder speculates that they are controlling some of us and recycling others, essentially imprisoning some of us. This idea resonates with the Buddhist concept of the wheel of samsara, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth that keeps beings bound to illusion. In Buddhism, enlightenment, liberation from ego and ignorance, is the path to escaping this cycle. However, abductions and consciousness manipulation appear designed to prevent such awakening. The imposition of false narratives, like the idea that aliens are here to save humanity, constant trauma, and totalitarian telepathic control keep the human mind fragmented, unable to attain the clarity required for enlightenment. Cloning technology, by anchoring the soul to physical or artificial bodies, may perpetuate this imprisonment, blocking ascension to a higher state of consciousness. Abductees' accounts of altered states of consciousness, hovering between dreams, astral projection, and physical reality, reinforce the notion that our understanding of consciousness is limited by materialistic paradigms. It is possible that a fourth-density vibrational technology, imperceptible to ordinary human senses, is employed by these beings, including the Greys, often described as around 4 feet tall, sometimes accompanied by taller entities that may serve as Archon avatars. The recurrence of identical narratives across thousands of global cases rules out coincidence. A personal example. I know someone who, during childhood, experienced repeated abductions with details identical to global reports, invasive medical exams, and sensations of paralysis. This convinces me that something sinister is occurring on our planet, a hidden mechanism transcending mere fiction. While we speculate about purported benevolent intentions of extraterrestrial aid, it is critical to ask, are we not being genetically and energetically manipulated to remain as livestock, sources of loosh? The darkest hypothesis suggests this intervention aims to suffocate our capacity for spiritual ascension, trapping us in an endless cycle of reincarnation and vibrational dependency. If there is truth here, liberation will demand not only awareness, but the dismantling of control systems as ancient as humanity itself. Amid this bleak landscape, is there hope? Testimonies like those of Ryder and Marshall are acts of resistance, attempts to expose the truth and awaken humanity. Despite massive control, sources suggest human consciousness holds unique potential, perhaps even feared by these entities. Enlightenment, as proposed by Buddha, may be the key to escaping the wheel of samsara. This requires awakening to truth, rejecting imposed narratives, and cultivating inner clarity. Ryder tried resisting by becoming uncooperative, but found these entities' power immense. Yet public disclosure, as pursued by figures like Greer, could fracture the system. Technologies like scalar waves to block consciousness transfers are mentioned, but true power may lie in collective awareness, a mass awakening to challenge the matrix and free the human soul. Abductions are not mere encounters with aliens. They may be part of a millennial plan to keep humanity trapped, harvesting our vital energy and blocking our path to enlightenment. Whether through Nazi technology, deep state programs, or entities like the Archons, the goal seems identical: to control the human soul and perpetuate a cycle of suffering and rebirth. But the truth is emerging. It falls to us, out-of-the-box thinkers, to connect the dots, question official narratives, and seek liberation. As Time Rider asked, who are we really, and what is this place? The answer may lie beyond the Matrix, and it is our responsibility to find it.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, commenting, and liking.